Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Black Star, gazing out at the endless stars shimmering across the massive viewscreen. The ship hummed softly, engines purring like a sleeping beast beneath the deck. Around him, 300 crew members moved with practiced precision at their stations, same tasks, same rhythm, just like they'd done for the past 2 years. But the Black Star wasn't just another starship cruising through the galaxy. It was different. Bigger. Sleeker. Darker. And full of secrets, secrets that no alien species had even begun to guess at. For 30 years, humanity had toiled in hidden shipyards, salvaging scraps of alien tech and upgrading it, quietly, relentlessly. Every time humans met a new species, they learned. The towering Zahirians had taught them about unbreakable alloys. The brilliant Nexari unlocked the mysteries of quantum computing. The mysterious Voidkin. They revealed secrets of energy no one else had dared imagine. But none of these species had ever really seen humanity. To them, humans were just another utility, good for labor, not leadership. They assigned us to mines, factories, and repair stations. Politics and war. Those were for the real species. Jake Morrison knew that story too well. At 42, Jake had spent half his life in space. His brown hair was giving way to gray at the temples, and his blue eyes had long since lost their innocence. His crew trusted him with their lives. The aliens respected him because he played by the rules, or at least, they thought he did. But Jake? He had secrets too. So did his ship. At the tactical console sat Lieutenant Commander Lisa Carter. She was 35, sharp as a blade, with short black hair and lightning-fast fingers that could operate any weapon system across 3 galaxies. She'd served beside Jake for a decade and knew what the Black Star was really capable of. It looked like a standard military ship, but under the hood, it was something the galaxy wasn't ready for. The calm of the morning ended with a sharp alert. Lisa's console began to beep. Her eyes scanned the incoming data, and her face drained of color. "Captain," she said, voice low and tight. "I'm receiving distress signals from New Haven Colony." Jake was at her side in an instant. New Haven. A peaceful human settlement. 50,000 people. Families. Kids. It was supposed to be safe. "What kind of distress signal?" Jake asked. Lisa's fingers danced over her controls. The main screen flickered and displayed 2 video messages from New Haven. The first was a woman, blood on her face, eyes wide in terror. Behind her, buildings were on fire. "This is New Haven Colony. We are under attack. Unknown ships are bombing our cities. Send help, immediately." The second video was worse. A man screaming into a camera, explosions behind him. "They're landing troops. They're taking prisoners. The defense grid is down. Please, someone." The screen went black, but the last thing they heard was the whine of energy weapons. Jake's stomach twisted into a knot. How many ships attacked them? Lisa didn't hesitate. At least 50. Large ones. Attack pattern matches Skarn military vessels. The Skarn. Jake's jaw clenched. 8-foot-tall lizard-like beings covered in armored scales, the Skarn believed in strength above all else. They'd spent the last decade expanding their territory, taking what they wanted by force. The Galactic Coalition usually kept them in check, but this wasn't just a border raid. 2 colonies attacked on the same day. This was a statement. Commander Rick Hayes, chief engineer, strode onto the bridge. Tall and wiry, with permanently oil-streaked hands, Rick was as brilliant as he was unshakable. "Captain," he said grimly, "we've got another signal. This one's from Aurora Prime. Same story. Skarn attack. Bombing. Ground troops." Jake's eyes darkened. 2 attacks in one day, this isn't coincidence. It's coordinated. They're testing us. Lisa's console beeped again. Incoming transmission from Coalition Command. The screen shifted. Admiral Frank Butler appeared, the highest-ranking human in the Coalition military. 60 years old, gray-haired, and exhausted. Behind him, alien officers moved in and out of focus, deep in conversation. "Jake," Frank said, "I assume you've seen the distress signals." "Yes, sir," Jake replied. "What are our orders?" Frank hesitated, glancing over his shoulder. "The Coalition Council is in emergency session. The Nexari want to send diplomats. The Zahirians say their fleets are too far away. The Voidkin, well, they're meditating or something. No one's made a decision." Jake's fists clenched. "Sir, there are over 100,000 civilians between those two colonies. We don't have time for debates." "I know, Jake," Frank said, voice full of frustration. "I've been arguing for hours. But the Council hasn't authorized military action. They want to try diplomacy first." Lisa looked at Jake. She didn't need to say a word. The rage in her eyes matched the fire in his. They both knew the truth. The galaxy didn't care about human lives. It cared about treaties. Politics. Appearances. Jake stood still for a long moment. Then, he stepped into the center of the bridge. "All hands," he said, his voice calm but steel-edged. "We're leaving Coalition space. We're going to save our people. Anyone who doesn't want to be part of this can transfer off now. But anyone who stays, you're going to war." Not a single crew member moved. Jake turned back to the screen. "Admiral Butler," he said, "please inform the Coalition Council that humanity is withdrawing from the Coalition. Effective immediately." Frank's eyes widened. "Jake, you don't have the authority to. I have the authority to protect my people." Jake turned to his pilot. Lieutenant Susan Parker was 28, with blonde hair, green eyes, and a reputation for being able to fly anything with an engine. "Susan," he said, "set course for Skarn space. Maximum speed." "Yes, sir." "How many ships are we taking?" she asked. Jake smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "Just us." The Black Star turned silently away from Coalition space and vanished into hyperspace. Behind them, the alien diplomats continued their debates. Ahead of them, the Skarn fleet waited, confident, prepared, unaware. Unaware that they were about to learn something new about humanity. They were about to learn what happened when you hurt a human's family. The war had begun. The USS Black Star emerged from hyperspace at the outer edge of the Skarn home system. On the bridge, Captain Jake Morrison stared through the main screen at the terrifying sight waiting for them. Tactical Officer Lisa Carter's fingers flew across her console. "Captain," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, "I count 212 enemy ships. They're in full battle formation, centered around their flagship." Jake's gaze locked on the massive vessel at the heart of the formation. He didn't need Lisa to confirm it. "That's the World Render," she said quietly. "It's never been defeated in battle." It loomed in the void, 3 times the size of the Black Star, bristling with weapons, surrounded by a cloud of smaller warships moving in tight, lethal patterns. This wasn't a defensive fleet. It was an invasion force. A war engine built to crush everything in its path. Rick Hayes burst onto the bridge, wiping grease from his hands. He looked exhausted, but his eyes gleamed with excitement. "Captain, the modifications are online," he said. "We're ready." Jake gave him a hard look. "Walk me through it, Rick." Rick nodded and pointed to the engineering display. "We've got the reactor running at 150% normal output. That gives us the juice for all the enhancements. The weapons are rerouted through the mining systems, We'll be cutting through Skarn armor like we cut through asteroid rock. And the shields? Jake asked. That's the real trick, Rick grinned. We don't have shields anymore. We've got a gravitational field generator. It bends space around us. Energy weapons curve away. Physical projectiles miss. In theory, they shouldn't be able to hit us at all. Susan Parker's ears perked up. And our speed? Faster than anything this size should be able to move. The field reduces our mass, we'll handle like a fighter but hit like a dreadnought. Jake looked around the bridge. Every face was human. Every pair of eyes understood what they were about to do. They were about to take on over 200 enemy ships with just one. Jake nodded once. Lisa, open a channel. The screen flickered and showed a Skarn commander standing tall, armored in dark green scales. His yellow eyes gleamed with malice, sharp teeth bared in what passed for a smile. I am wearer Skarks of the Hegemony Fleet. You are a lone human ship. Surrender now or be obliterated. Jake stepped forward, squarely into the frame. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Black Star. You attacked human colonies. You killed civilians. Took prisoners. That was your mistake. Skarks let out a gravelly laugh, like stones grinding together. One ship against my fleet. You humans are stupider than we thought. Jake didn't blink. You're about to learn something about us. We don't know when to quit. He cut the feed. Susan, Jake said. Take us in. On it. Lisa, all weapons hot. Rick, give me everything you've got. The Black Star accelerated, moving straight toward the center of the Skarn formation. The enemy fleet opened fire, hundreds of energy beams and plasma torpedoes lit up space like a fireworks show. Everyone on the bridge held their breath. And then, nothing hit. The gravitational field worked perfectly. Energy weapons twisted and curved, missing the ship entirely. Plasma bolts flew off harmlessly into the void. Jake's voice rang out. Return fire. The Black Star fired. The beams weren't just weapons, they were drills, originally designed to cut through asteroid cores. Now, weaponized, they became death incarnate. One shot sliced through a Skarn cruiser like it was made of paper. Another beam pierced two ships in a single burst. A third disintegrated a heavily armored battleship. Captain, Lisa whispered, staring at her tactical readout, we just took out 6 ships, with 3 shots. The Skarn moved to encircle, but Susan was already flying like a woman possessed. The Black Star twisted, banked, and spun through enemy formations, dodging beams and slipping between ships with impossible grace. The enemy gunners couldn't even track her. Ship after ship exploded. They'd expected a sluggish vessel, not a ghost in the void. On board the World Render, War Leader Skarks watched in disbelief as his fleet crumbled. Concentrate fire on the human ship, he barked. Bring the World Render to full power. If we have to ram them, we will. The World Render's main cannon lit up, a city-sized weapon, designed to obliterate moons. It fired. A beam brighter than a sun lanced through space, and slammed into the Black Star. Or so it seemed. When the light cleared, the Black Star was untouched. The beam had bent around the ship, harmless. Jake didn't wait. Susan, he said calmly, ram them. Right through the center. Yes, sir. The Black Star rocketed forward, a glowing spear encased in a field of twisted space. When it hit the World Render, it didn't crash. It passed through. Like a bullet through paper. The Skarn flagship split in half. Explosions tore through its hull. Fires ignited in space. Debris scattered in all directions. Skarks had just enough time to send one last message before his ship detonated: the humans have a monster ship. It cannot be stopped. Retreat. Retreat now. The surviving Skarn vessels broke ranks and fled into hyperspace, leaving behind the shattered remnants of their once mighty fleet. Jake scanned the tactical screen. In under 20 minutes, they'd taken out more than half the Skarn military strength in the region. Any damage? He asked. Lisa checked her display. None, Captain. Not even a scratch. Jake exhaled slowly. Then the first battle is over. But he knew it wasn't the last. The galaxy had just been introduced to the Black Star. And nothing would ever be the same. Back at Coalition HQ, the news spread like wildfire. Alien leaders across the galaxy watched the footage in stunned silence. The Nexari couldn't comprehend how humans had built such a weapon. The Zephyrians, who once called themselves the greatest warriors in the galaxy, recognized they'd been blind to human strength. The Voidkin, well, no one could really tell what the Voidkin were thinking, but they floated ominously, and that seemed meaningful. Admiral Frank Butler received an official message from the Coalition Council. Humans were being expelled. Humanity's actions had been deemed reckless. Dangerous. Captain Jake Morrison was declared a war criminal. Frank read the message. Then tossed it in the trash. He'd seen the same recordings. He'd watched the buildings of New Haven burn. He knew why Jake had made his choice. Meanwhile, far from the politics, the USS Black Star didn't return home. Jake Morrison had made his decision. He wasn't just going to stop the Skarn. He was going to end them. Lisa, Jake said, standing on the bridge once more. What's our next target? Lisa Carter pulled up a star map. There's a supply depot at Korvac Station. Fuel, weapons, fleet support. If we take it out, their outer rim fleets will be stranded. Jake nodded. How many ships guarding it? 20 cruisers. 50 smaller escorts. They think it's safe. They're wrong. Susan, Jake said, plot a course. Yes, sir. She entered the coordinates with a grin. She'd been flying the Black Star non-stop for 3 days, and she was only getting better. The gravitational field made the ship feel like an extension of her own body. Dar. Amy Johnson, the ship's chief medical officer, was in the med bay, not treating wounds, but analyzing captured Skarn tech. And what she found turned her stomach. She burst onto the bridge, tablet in hand. Jake, she said urgently, you need to see this. The screen showed data and images from a Skarn research facility. They had been experimenting on human prisoners, trying to understand what made humans so adaptable, so quick to learn and evolve. Even children were among the test subjects. Jake stared at the photos. His jaw clenched. This wasn't war anymore. It was personal. The Black Star dropped out of hyperspace near Korvac Station. It was massive, dozens of docking arms, gigantic fuel tanks, and weapon storage pods that floated around it like tiny moons. The Skarn considered it a fortress deep in their territory, secure behind layers of defenses. But they hadn't counted on the USS Black Star. Commander Steve Walsh, head of security, scanned the enemy chatter. A big man with calm eyes and a soldier's instincts, he understood fear. And he was hearing it in the Skarn's voices. They're panicking, Captain, he said. Reports are spreading fast about what we did to the World Render. They know we're coming, but they don't know when. Jake Morrison nodded. Let's give them a reason to be afraid. Open a channel to the station. The main screen lit up with a Skarn commander, red scales, golden eyes, and a sneer that quickly faded into confusion when he saw who he was dealing with. This is Skarn territory, the alien barked. You will leave now or be destroyed. Jake didn't blink. I'm Captain Morrison of the USS Black Star. You've got human prisoners on that station. Release them. Now. Or no one on your side makes it out. The Skarn laughed. We have 70 warships here, human. You have one. You don't get to make demands. Jake's voice stayed calm. You're about to learn a lesson in human mathematics. 1 human ship equals 0 Skarn ships. The moment the screen cut, the battle began. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, missile swarms, the Skarn unleashed everything they had. A wall of death surrounded Korvac Station. But the Black Star was already moving. Susan Parker flew the ship through the chaos like a ghost. She used the station itself for cover, weaving between fuel tanks and storage pods. Skarn weapons ended up blowing holes in their own infrastructure, blasting their own defense grid to shreds. Lisa Carter timed her shots with surgical precision. Every pull of the trigger meant another enemy ship vaporized. The modified mining beams tore through Skarn armor like it was foam. But this fight, this one was different. Jake wasn't just trying to win. He was trying to send a message. Chief Communications Officer Laura Miller tapped into the Skarn comms grid. Young and brilliant, she was a prodigy in electronic warfare. And now, as their enemies screamed across open frequencies for help, she flooded the channels. With music. With laughter. With recordings of human families singing songs. Children giggling. It echoed through every Skarn vessel. This, Steve Walsh explained to the younger crew members, is psychological warfare. They hear life, while they watch death. 2 hours later, Korvac Station was rubble. 70 Skarn ships, gone. The Black Star hadn't taken a single hit. But they weren't done. Inside the wreckage, Rick Hayes and Amy Johnson found a trove of data, coordinates, maps, encrypted logs. They uncovered the locations of 12 Skarn prison camps. Jake, Amy said, eyes wide, they've been keeping human captives for months. Some of them are children. We have to go. Jake didn't hesitate. Plot a course to the nearest camp. Over the next month, the Black Star became a name whispered in fear across Skarn space. It didn't just destroy military targets. It dismantled an empire. It appeared out of nowhere, struck with unstoppable force, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Entire garrisons surrendered at the first sight of the ship. Some never fired a shot. Other alien races, once dismissive of humanity, began rethinking everything they believed. If humans could build one Black Star, how many more were hidden out there? Jake wasn't trying to make history. He wasn't trying to shift galactic politics. He was trying to protect his people. And nothing was going to stop him. 6 months passed. The Skarn hegemony, once a dominant force in the galaxy, was in free fall. They had lost half their territory. Their trade routes were shattered. Their military leaders were in hiding. Panic spread. On distant worlds, the other species began meeting in secret. The Nexari called emergency summits. The Zephyrians gathered their war councils. Even the enigmatic Voidkin, who rarely intervened, emerged from their meditation chambers. One thought united them: humans were far more dangerous than anyone had ever guessed. Admiral Korvac of the Nexari, renowned for his strategic brilliance, watched endless battle footage from the Black Star. He couldn't make sense of it. How is this possible? He asked one of his aides. One ship has destroyed an empire that took centuries to build. They're unpredictable, Admiral, the aide said. Our models can't forecast their behavior. Humans don't follow logic. Korvac nodded slowly. The Nexari were masters of logic. Every decision calculated. Every move backed by statistics. Humans. They played by different rules. They took insane risks, and made them work. And then came the report that changed everything. A spy in Skarn territory delivered a chilling message: the Death Ship is coming to the core systems. The Skarn are preparing to evacuate their homeworld. That was the breaking point. 12 major species gathered at a neutral space station called Harmony Point. They had never agreed on anything. But this time, fear united them. "We must end the human threat," declared Warchif Thrax of the Zephyrians, a four-armed titan with skin like stone. "One species cannot destabilize the galaxy." "I agree," Admiral Corvex added. "But this will not be easy. Their ship defies physics. Their actions are chaotic. But we must act." A Voidkin representative floated nearby, voice like distant thunder. "We have seen fragments of future timelines. They are disrupted. Human actions fracture probability itself. So they made a choice. The largest fleet in galactic history would be assembled, 500 warships from 12 different species. Their mission, destroy the USS Black Star. Captain Jake Morrison didn't know about the incoming fleet. He was too busy liberating the final Skarn prison camp. Dar. Amy Johnson moved among the rescued prisoners. Some were barely more than skin and bone. Others were children from New Haven, still haunted by what they'd endured. They were free now. But the pain lingered. Jake watched them from the corridor, his face grim. Commander Rick Hayes approached, face pale, hands shaking. "Jake, we need to talk. About the ship." Jake followed him to engineering. The lights flickered. Panels buzzed with strain. Rick's voice cracked. "We're breaking down. The reactor's been redlining for months. The grav field generator is showing cracks. The weapons are burning out faster than I can fix them." "How much time?" Jake asked. "A few weeks. Maybe less." Jake nodded. He had known this day would come. Then Lisa's voice rang through the intercom. "Captain to the bridge. Priority message from Coalition Space." Jake arrived to find Lisa staring at the screen. "It's from Admiral Butler. He says it's urgent." The screen came alive. Frank Butler looked like he hadn't slept in days. He sat in a dim bunker, face grim. "Jake, they're coming. 12 species. 500 ships. Admiral Corvex is leading them. They're calling it the largest fleet in history." Jake felt the cold weight of reality settle over him. "Where?" "They're going to New Haven. They think you'll return to visit the memorial." "Jake, it's a trap. Don't go." Jake looked around the bridge. Susan at the helm. Lisa at tactical. Rick at engineering. All of them ready. All of them waiting for his order. "Frank," he said, "send a message to every human colony. Tell them to prepare their defenses. If we don't make it, they'll have to protect themselves." "Jake, don't do this. 500 ships. That's suicide." Jake smiled. The same smile he wore the day he'd walked away from the Coalition. "Frank, do you remember what you told me when I was a junior officer?" Frank blinked. "What?" "You said the best defense is a good offense." Jake cut the transmission. "Susan," he said, "set course for New Haven." Lisa stepped forward. "Sir, it is a trap." "I know. But that memorial, it matters. It's where it all started. I'm not letting 500 ships gather there and pretend they understand sacrifice." Rick stepped up next. "I can give you everything we've got. One last time. After that, the ship's done." Jake nodded. "Then let's make it count." He opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. We're outnumbered. Outgunned. Our ship is failing. By all calculations, we cannot win." He paused, then continued, "But we are not a logical species. We are human. We don't surrender. We don't quit. And we don't back down when our families are in danger." He looked around at his crew, battle-worn, loyal, fearless. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when they underestimate human resolve. The Black Star jumped into hyperspace, one last time. Straight into the largest battle the galaxy had ever seen.